Hello, human family. I'm Jocelyn, and I am grateful you're here. Welcome to the Starting with Gratitude podcast. This is a safe space intended to host heart-centered conversations exploring all topics of the human and spiritual experience. Every conversation starts with gratitude and remains rooted in gratitude. After you listen, make sure to join the community by subscribing and sharing. I am so happy you have joined us. Hey, Savannah.
Hey, Jocelyn.
How is your heart doing in this moment?
My heart is doing really well. It's filled with a lot of love and gratitude, and I'm just so blessed. That's just where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Yes.
excited to get into those blessings and have this conversation with you. But before we dive in, I'm going to have you further unfold the gratitude you have and let us know what it is that you feel grateful for.
So I am grateful for good health. I'm just so blessed that I was able to wake up today healthy, able to mobilize with all my limbs and just, have that health. A lot of people take it for granted. There's a big global health crisis out there. So I am very grateful for good health.
Yeah, same. And on the topic of health, do you feel like, not just our physical health, but like mental health has been something that's kind of come to the forefront for you recently?
Definitely. I feel like mental health is just as important as your physical health. If your mental health is not in good spirits, then you're not going to be able to perform at your highest level. And I think people take that for granted. If you were to have a cold, you would call out of work. If you were dealing with mental health issues, then you would want to call out of work. So I think it's just like so important that people take the time to focus on their mental. Don't be afraid to get a therapist. Don't be afraid to talk to friends about the things that you're going through, because we're all going through something. And I think the pandemic showed us that more than ever.
I agree. I feel like it became more transparent to see like not only what people really have going on, but like how they respond to what they have going on. I feel like we really got to see a different light in the people around us and also just the world in general.
Definitely, definitely.
Would you say that you have, people in your life that you can be completely honest and vulnerable of like not having to, put on a mask or be performative in any way? Do you have those relationships?
Definitely. I would say my closest friends are really my truest friends. We've been friends since college or childhood. And those are the ones that I, worry about just keeping around me most. And the older I get, the more appreciative I am about having that small circle, and not having to perform, because oftentimes people like us who are in a crazy industry like the entertainment industry, we're constantly having to put on this face for others. So I'm so grateful for my closest friends. Like I said, I've known my closest friends all since childhood or college. And those are the ones that I'm on the phone with. There's literally like 5 of them. And, we're in rotation on a weekly basis, just checking in on each other's mental health in general, because, we're human. So we're all going
Mhm.
through something, whether it be Monday or Wednesday.
Yeah, I love that. And it really is such a blessing to have those kinds of relationships in your life. And I agree that, like, as I've gotten older, I've come to really, really cherish my childhood friendships more. There's like two that immediately come to mind where we've been friends since we were little. And whew, that is such a blessing because it's like they know us in a way that like no one else will get to, like they know our child self, our inner child. And so it's like it's just so special.
For sure. For sure. It's just super organic and something you just never have to question.
Hmm. If you don't mind sharing, what has been a topic of conversation revolving wellness that has come up, between you and that small circle of friends over the past year or the past couple of years that we've gone through?
I don't know if this counts, but this was recently something that was brought to the forefront amongst my friends and I was the Canamom movement. I don't know if that counts.
What is that?
There's a movement of women that are using cannabis products during their pregnancy. I'm like new to it, but like I just thought that was really interesting. It was something that came to our radar like over recent weeks.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
I don't
so
know.
you said canna, what is it?
Canna moms.
Oh, canna moms.
Yeah.
Interesting. No, I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, I never heard of it either until recent weeks. And there's like a whole movement on social media, like on TikTok and Instagram. For me, I imagine myself when I'm pregnant, I'm not using any products, no contraband, nothing like that. I just want my baby to just be super organic. But yeah, there's apparently like a lot of debate in that space about benefits and other things. I don't know. It's just really interesting. I stand on the side of I would never use cannabis products while pregnant, but it's a thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's always, good to, even if you're not personally someone that would partake in something, like it's good to open yourself up to how others decide to experience their life
For
and have
sure.
that open-mindedness.
For sure.
I feel like you being in the PR space has you really tapped into a lot of what's going on in, the world. I mean, I guess it also depends on, specifically what industry you're in, but I'm guessing that you're someone who's like really tapped into a lot of what's going on.
I am. And it's so funny. One of my closest friends, Ferg, he just said that to me earlier. He literally was like, Sab, you always know what's going on. I'm super tapped in. It's a part of the job description because we always have to figure out what's current and what's going on in the news and then figure out how we can integrate our clients into that news stream. So yeah, as a publicist, we have to be in the know.
If it at all impacted you, over the course of the past couple of years that we've gone through, this pandemic and quarantine and the social movements and just so much going on, I feel like a lot of us became more sensitive towards, being so tapped in and being in tune with social media and technology. Did that at all like impact you and your relationship with your work?
Definitely. I think with quarantine, being isolated in your home and only having social media and not being able to have outside interactions, it does something to your mental health. The whole thing was one big giant experiment as far as like containing humans to their homes for these extended periods of time. So I definitely like entered this year, 2021. I said to myself, by the time 2022 comes, I want to be at a place in my career where I can move like Jay-Z and Warren Buffett and not have to be on social media. Because anybody who knows me knows like I'm very like anti-technology. Like it's cool. I appreciate it for what it does and how it's able to mobilize these movements and make cool things happen and, tell the stories of my clients and brands. I love that aspect. However, I like in my dream world, I would live like Napoleon Dynamite in the middle of nowhere, middle America, live in a home with just a house phone, no cell phone, and just be able to like walk to like the country store downtown and they be playing vintage Michael Jackson in the background. Like that is like my ideal lifestyle. I think that would be so cool. So that's where I'm aiming to go and just like designing a lifestyle that allows that. I hate that we live in this time period where like you can't even choose to live an alternative lifestyle. Like you have to have a cell phone. If you don't answer your cell phone, people think you've gone missing and you're somewhere not safe. And people feel like you constantly have to check in or you constantly have to keep up with what's going on social media. But like if this was 30 years ago, the person who you're dating, you would hang up the phone and then you speak to them the next day. And when you leave the date, you just don't see each other until the next day and you don't know what goes on. And I think that as humans, I miss that part of interaction of just like, wondering, curiosity, yearning for somebody, missing somebody, and just having those on the ground, person to person interactions. I just think it's kind of crazy that humans don't even have that option anymore if you wanted to live like that. But obviously, with the right means and money, you can design a lifestyle like that. So that's always been my aim. This year, I really focused on it because 2022, I want to spend less time on social media. I want to have probably somebody run my social media. Maybe I only log on for like online events, but I just think humans deserve organic, on the ground interactions. I think that's when we thrive best.
I agree. Isn't it wild? Like, even, I feel like the millennial generation has had such an interesting evolution because we really got to see the evolution of technology. Like, we got to experience, I remember my mom coming home one day and she bought like this little like machine that would like let you know who was calling like on the house phone, and for like the first time we were able to see like
Mm.
who the incoming call was coming from. Back then, like you didn't know who was calling you, you just answered the phone. And I remember it was like the coolest, most exciting thing. And I miss that too. Like I miss the mystery that we don't have now. Like we're so tapped into each other's lives and like constantly updating and constantly like intaking all of these people's information. And I was just thinking the other day, like, this is obviously not healthy, like to be, processing so much information about other people's lives. It's kind of obvious when you really observe that how that's really impacted us in our mental health and like the way that we see, our own journey and our own accomplishments and what we have going on. It's really wild.
Yeah, I agree. I think social media is destroying the social fabric of society. I stand on that side of it. And I think that social media creates a lot of noise and we're all feeling it. If you're on social media, we all have this social media anxiety that we can all feel. And I have anxiety in general. So I think it's a communication anxiety that I get with using social media sometimes. Like sometimes I just want to post and I don't want to text people back. Like sometimes I want to go ghost and that's just how I want to be. I think that social media creates so many fake pressures for no reason that everybody deserves to be able to step back. And like I said, I wish that people could just have that executive decision to be able to step back and say, maybe they don't want this to be part of their lifestyle.
Aside from exactly this that we're speaking on, what calls you towards kind of, being a bit more private with your life and, even, going as far as like living like away and like kind of secluded and like more in solitude? Is, solitude and that kind of living something you've always been comfortable with, or like what calls you towards that?
I just love that idea of being isolated and not having to answer to anything. And I think that these devices that we have are these things that we're constantly answering to, whether it's a DM, whether it's a text, whether it's a Snapchat, all these push notifications, like that's just like the opposite of what I want to live sometimes. And I work in the entertainment industry. I'm right outside of New York City. New York City is like a hub of stimulation. And I love it for work. Like it really motivates me. I love being out there, making things happen. But I think the older that I get in life, I realize that I'm just trying to train that next class of PR professionals to be out there networking on the ground, making those connections. Because back to our topic of like communication anxiety, I think that when I'm constantly absorbing other people's energies, it's just so draining. So I want to be able to just like live a life where I'm not absorbing anybody's energies. Like it's just me, vitamin D, and some horse stables, like just like pure bliss, like no demands, nothing like that. Like I get that type of vibe from like some of the beautiful parts of Middle America, or like Africa gives me that vibe. Like I went to Africa one time. I was in the Gambia. I was there for 10 days. I didn't answer any emails and it felt great. Like I just love that lifestyle. And I think particularly the way capitalism is set up and everything, like they kind of force you into the matrix. You'd have to be like a doctor or some sort of industry that doesn't require social media. You'd have to be like super rich or something to like have to be able to remove yourself from social media. Because like a lot of the people that I named, Warren Buffett and Jay-Z, they're older, they've been in the game, they're OGs, they literally don't need social media. They have more than enough money to go around. But for people like us, young up and comers, a lot of our marketing and success comes from using the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's, ad marketing, whether it's social media, whether it's just building and maintaining relationships with people that you're building with, you need a lot of these mediums. But I think that it's possible to just reach a place of just not needing that. Like just having a phone number, you could just dial me. Justin Bieber
Mm-hmm.
actually got rid of his cell phone. He doesn't have a cell phone. And I think Kanye West also said that he's gone through, different bouts of like not having a cell phone. So there's people out there who feel it and want to be a part of that movement.
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting. I didn't know that. I feel called to share a YouTube channel that I stumbled upon a few months ago. I think it's called Green Renaissance. I could be wrong, but I'm gonna email you the link so you can like check it out, or DM it to you. But it's a channel that does really beautifully filmed like little shorts, like little documentaries with people who live all over the world and they live these kinds of lives and they just like share what their life is like and how they live. It's really beautiful. So I'm going to share it with you if you're interested in checking that out.
Yes, that sounds dope.
So kind of going a little more personal into like getting to know Savannah. I know that you recently moved to Africa, or there was a time that you were living there. Could you expand on that a little bit and how, the season of your life approaching that decision kind of came to be?
Yes. So before COVID, I was living in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria. I was living there for 6 months. I had moved there October 2019. And I went out there to go expand my agency's presence out there, work with like a lot of the pop and Afro beats artists and align brands with them as well. So I moved out there and I've been traveling back to the continent since 2009. And I just have a natural affinity for the continent. Like I'm African American and I don't really know my background because slavery has erased a lot of that. So ever since my first trip to the continent, it's just been like so organic, so natural. As soon as I touch the ground, I just feel at home. And I went to go visit Nigeria in 2018 on holiday, also business. I went there during the December season and I just loved it so much. And after I left, I ended up staying there for a month, literally booked a one-way ticket, didn't know like when I was going to come back, whatever. So I bounced back and forth between Nigeria and Ghana for a month. And then when I came back to America, I just couldn't stop thinking about Africa. I was like, yo, I really like it there. Like, I feel like I could live there like easily. Like, it just seemed like such a perfect place to live as a Black person. And I just felt crazy kind of at times. Like, do I move to Africa? Do I not? And then
Mm-hmm.
I consulted with my mom about it. And my mom's like, you should go. You have nothing to lose. So I literally made the executive decision. I said, I'm moving to Lagos. And it was the best decision that I've made in my entire life. It was so life-changing. It was so motivating. And it was a great experience. It was good for my soul. It was good for my growth. And I'm just a totally new person as a result of living there.
Yeah, yeah. So do you still like live there or did you come back? What is the situation there now?
So I came back because of COVID. I took an emergency evacuation flight April 11th, 2020. And I literally like packed up all my stuff as much as I could. I left some stuff with my neighbor. She's American as well. And a very good friend of mine, Anto. I left some of my stuff with her, packed up the rest of my stuff, and I just didn't look back. Now I'm stationed in New Jersey. Love it here. I'm a Jersey girl. And yeah, I'm here now. And it was like a blessing in disguise, like coming back to America during COVID. PR picked up naturally because everybody was indoors and everybody needed PR, needed to stay relevant in the digital space. So work picked up and domino effect. And now I'm here. So, Africa will always be there for me. But now I'm just like super rooted in Jersey and I'm loving it.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I wanted to ask, like, you had moved, a couple just before, COVID happened. What was that like, being so far from here and seeing, this pandemic unfold in the beginning and you not being in like a whole different situation. What was that like?
It was crazy because there was so much information and so much going on in the news. Like at first I was just confused. Like I didn't know if I wanted to come home because my family is in Jersey, and on the news they're like New Jersey and New York is the center of COVID. And I'm like, wait, like why would I fly right to the epicenter? So I was really scared, especially like reading online. They were saying like basically nobody should be traveling right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that came with an asterisk, which was you should return to your home country if you can, you know?
Right.
And it was really scary. I was so afraid to get on a flight. I was so afraid to just go through the airport, be around other people. And I just made the executive decision. I was like, you know what? Something's different in the air. This is not a usual anything. Something's going on. And America was like a week and a half, 2 weeks ahead of Nigeria. So they were on lockdown in America like a week and a half before us in Nigeria. And I just remember talking to my family and friends and them saying like they were really at home, that the streets were empty. And that was my clearest sign. I was like, okay, I think I need to go back because something's not right. And I'm so glad that I did, because I got on the last evacuation flight after that. Like no flights were in and out to Nigeria for months. So it was good. I don't have any family in Nigeria. So it was really good to just go home and be with my family. I was a little scared because I felt like my plans were changing. I had so many big, bright ideas going to Nigeria. I wasn't able to complete them all because of COVID. And I was just like, oh, like it just, I was like, stopping my flow of things. But like I said, it ended up being a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, yeah. I did want to ask you, like, how did you feel having to leave probably, so abruptly and under these circumstances? And I'm sure you moved there with like a vision, knowing you of like things you wanted to do and connections you wanted to build. And yeah, so how did you feel leaving that place and now being back in Jersey? Like, what, like, do you see yourself moving back, or what is that?
I definitely want to buy a home in Nigeria, not Nigeria. I want to buy a home in Ghana. So like just have a home in the motherland in general. I'm going to continuously keep working out there. I have a lot of different plays going on. I'll be back out there in January for some work. But right now, just stationed in America, like I have so much stuff going on in New Jersey, things that just like fell into my lap as a result of being back, opening up a studio in Philly, launching a monthly party series with SOBs in NYC. So just cool things going on that now just have me stationed here. So just blessed and busy.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I do, moving to like a whole other continent has to change you as a person, regardless of how long you were living there. How would you say that, living in Africa changed you as a person, and what did you learn about yourself from that experience?
There was just so much that I learned by living in Nigeria. I learned to never trust a soul. You know, your parents tell you that your whole life, but when you go to another country, you're adopting their culture, and you know what I mean? So like just like trusting your instinct and like, being cautious is like key. I'll also just say it made me more assertive. Like I've been assertive my whole life, but it created another assertion in me that I'm just so appreciative of. I also tell people, like I joke often, like living in Nigeria opened up my mind to, it was like a time machine. That's what I always say. Because, women's rights are like not prominent and like certain things are a little bit behind on still, but you get to see the world from a different perspective. You get to see the world how it was prior to like a lot of westernization, prior to a lot of ways of life. And, I come there with my American outlook, and I'm not there to impede on anyone. Obviously, I want to bring my culture no matter where I go, just to spread it in general.
Mm-hmm.
But like, just like seeing the world from like two different lenses, I can't stress that enough. Like that's what it allotted me, because, there's so many freedoms that we have here in the Western world that we take for granted, safe elections, safe and free elections, women's rights, LGBT rights, and religious rights, and just, so many rights that you take for granted. And just seeing a world that's not so westernized, that still stands on many of their customs and values, and just perspectivism. Like I'm a big perspectivist. So I'm just appreciative of being able to see anything from a new lens.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is a new perspective that you recently gained that you are really appreciative of?
A new perspective that I recently gained that I'm really appreciative of. I would definitely say, like, for me, one thing that was really big on my journey this year for 2021 was going plant-based. So I'm a vegetarian. I went vegetarian January 1st of this year. It was a goal of mine that I had wanted to accomplish for a while. I would always just see vegans and they just look like they were living their best life. Like they have all this energy, they take their
Yeah.
wheatgrass shots. And I just was like, one day I'm going to do that. So I did that this year. And it just opened up my mind in so many ways. Like I feel like I see clear, I smell clear, I think clear. I'm like so energetic. I feel like I'm a completely different person. And because it was such a big cornerstone habit, it created a domino effect through so many other facets of my life. Like drinking and just other things. Like I stopped drinking this year. Like it just created like so much mental freedom from me by like just freeing myself from meat, as
Mhm.
crazy as that sounds. And yeah, that's something that like I recently adopted to my lifestyle that's been amazing for me.
Yeah, yeah. I actually went plant-based like towards the end of last year too. And for me,
Okay.
like it's something that I always wanted. I was very curious about, like that lifestyle and having that diet. But I had attempted it before and like I lasted a month and I couldn't do it. But something happened to me energetically to where like I just stopped craving meat out of nowhere. I didn't want it. And so I feel like I naturally just came into the plant-based lifestyle and I agree like it really does shift you in a lot of different ways and it does create a domino effect of like other, healthier habits that you start implementing in your life. What are some of those new like lifestyle practices that came to you over the course of just this past year and after becoming plant-based?
I got heavy into journaling this year because, like I said, my thoughts just became clearer. So, like, I
Mm,
began journaling, and that was something that was a big part of my childhood. Like, I was always a writer, and it's taken me back to my childhood, which I really like because I think that it's so important that adults adopt some of their old childhood likings because it's what keeps you young, it's what keeps your mind vibrant, and it just is a constant reminder of who you are. So, journaling was really big for me. Organization, like I am such a minimalist. I blame Africa as well because all that moving and stuff like that, you can't be attached to items. But also with the plant-based lifestyle, being vegetarian now, I think so clear that I want everything to just have a space and place. So the amount of Goodwill bags that I donated between 2020 up to now, so many clothes I got rid of, so many things that I listed on Depop just to like cleanse. So, it made me so organized. Like I'm obsessed with the Container Store. I'm obsessed with the Bed Bath and Beyond. Like any way in which I can compartmentalize things, like that's just where I'm at now. Like I can literally see everything on my horizon now. So now it's just about like organizing everything. Like when I used to eat meat, it would make me like so full and sick, like where I have like a food baby.
mhm,
And, I would want to go to sleep after I would eat. But now when I eat and I feel like I can go run, a couple miles, So those are definitely some cornerstone habits that I definitely noticed through going vegetarian.
mhm. Yeah, like something I'm really grateful for is this like newfound relationship with food that I'm sure that we both share now becoming plant-based and like
Yeah.
realizing like wait, food is supposed to energize me. Like food is medicine. Like this
Yep.
is literally coming into my body. My body is literally digesting it. This is literally impacting me mentally, physically, energetically, all of these things. It's really awakening, honestly.
Truly, truly,
Yeah.
yeah. You don't realize how much poison's in the food out there, and you look around. We all know so many people who have all these sicknesses, all these types of cancers. Like the food that we're eating now is not the same food that the pilgrims were eating when they arrived. Like when you look at the corn back then versus the corn now, like we're just not like a lot of people are not fueling themselves. And I even saw the documentary What the Health. I saw that after I became vegetarian, but like it just further confirmed things for me. Like there's antibiotics in these foods, like there's sodium in these foods, like it's just not healthy.
Hmm.
So I feel like now it's like religion for me now with like being vegetarian. Like now that I see it, I can't unsee it.
Yeah, yeah, same. What would you say like inspired these lifestyle changes? Like, do you feel like it was a progression of like things that you were experiencing in your life where you were like, I need to switch things up. I need to, or was it what was it for you that got you to make these changes?
I think for the vegetarian thing, it was always a vision for me. And it was like a now or never kind of thing. So being that there was going to be a new year coming, I was like, I kept saying like, when am I going to do this? Like I keep saying I want to do it, but I've never really given it a try. So I just tried it. And literally after day 6, it became so easy for me. It just took 6 days. After day 6, it just total shift in my brain. And yeah, like I was just so grateful that I did it. Like it was literally a vision I had seen in my head for a very long time. And I'm so glad that I did it.
Yeah, yeah. I feel called to ask you, like with PR kind of picking up for you during the pandemic, at a time where, a lot of people experience loss of, their jobs and, their careers looking differently. How did the pandemic impact you outside of work?
Outside of work, I will say the pandemic definitely just changed like my mind and my lifestyle now. I
Mhm.
feel like I realized during the pandemic, sitting with myself and really thinking about the things that I want in life and my goals, I realized that I didn't have to be a social anymore. I didn't have to be outside as much anymore and really reserve that time for me. I think that I'm so much more appreciative at this age now to just be with myself, be by myself and not need the stimulation of others. And just being at home was like symbolic of like an overarching theme, like just being at home with myself, not being outside, not giving the world salve all the time. And just keeping in contact with my college friends and doing those things like going to the dog winery and, going to a comedy show, like just having those things and cherishing like those precious moments outside of just the workspace. I love a hike. I love camping. I love those types of vibes. And more than ever, those things are first priority.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like so many people can relate to that. And like building your agency from the ground up, I'm sure, for years building it, you dedicated so much of your time to work, to building this dream of yours. How has your relationship with your work shifted now?
I would say like there's definitely more boundaries. I think COVID also made me have to create boundaries because when you're working from home, people think like you're super available. And it's just like, no, 9 to 5, don't work weekends. And that is what it is. Like to this day, I still don't work on the weekends and people think I'm crazy. And it is what it is. Like if you worked at any other job outside of the entertainment industry, there would be a time for work and a time for leisure. And that's just what it is. So I like to draw those barriers. I don't answer any work calls on the weekend because what can I possibly do on the weekend for you? So boundaries are so important for me and it allots that time for space for
Hmm.
mental health breaks. Also meditating is key. Like I'm really big on meditation. That was something that my mom used to have my brother and I do when we were younger
I
and
love
I got
that.
back to doing that again and I'm just like so happy that I'm meditating like whoo, major key alert.
Really, though, really, what would you say you've gained from meditation personally?
Meditating is like such it's a practice of habit and it's one of those things once you get into the habit of it you'll always be able to find that peaceful place like no matter how stressful your workday is no matter how hard life gets just being able to escape to that place is so key. I think escapism is something that human beings are just like naturally prone to or addicted to in many different forms. So I think it's important that you find healthy forms of escapism. And I consider meditation one of them. We all deserve like a break to just go to an oasis and be at total peace. And I find that through meditation.
Yeah, it really does assist you in being able to ground yourself at any given moment. And I think once you realize that like meditation doesn't necessarily have to take place on a mat or like in any specific environment. You can literally be at your work desk or at like even a party
Yep.
and just drop into meditation. It really is so key. And it's something that's definitely helped me throughout, these past couple of years that we've been going through. What is something that you are currently overcoming?
I would say is my hurdle to work out. I feel like that's the last missing piece of my puzzle. Like, the veganism caused like such a domino effect. And now it's like, okay, Sav, like, let's work out. Because working out for me is not so much about my physical health. It's about my mental health as well. Like, I'm in good shape. I was like a runner my whole life. My metabolism, she does her job. You know what I'm saying? But I really want to work out because I feel like it'll just give me more energy. It'll make me think clearer. And I'll be that vegan in that vision that I said that I saw, like that vegan who eats plants and can run up Runyon Canyon and do all that and then go pick up the kids from school. Like I'm headed towards that.
Yeah, yeah. Something that I'm like, I've gotten this energy from you, outside looking in, just seeing how you move and now just, having this conversation with you. What I'm getting is that you are someone who really invests in themselves and their health and their wellness and their goals and achieving that. Am I correct?
For sure, for sure. I'm always on a constant journey of self-betterment.
Yeah. Have you always been that way?
I have always been that way, but I also will say 2021, it was about, we talk about these new levels and stepping into these different spaces and these goals that we have for ourselves. And I think that like what 2021 was really big for me was like just being that girl. Like we all have like, you're like, oh, I want to do this. I see myself doing that. And it's like to be that person, I know that you have to be a high level functioning person. And I know that what that requires of me, you know what I mean? It's not just the time, but there's so many other attributes that you have to adopt to be that person. So when you look at the Jay-Z's of the world and the Warren Buffetts of the world, and you look at their cornerstone habits that they have and some of the things that they practice on a daily basis, you're like, okay, to be that person, I really have to step into it and just do it and just be that person. And then, like I said, with the working out thing, it's something that I know already. My body's telling me that already. You know what I mean? It was the same thing with the vegetarianism thing. Like my body was telling me essentially, like, you need to try this. Next thing you know, like I don't have indigestion. I don't have food comas after I eat. Like, if you listen to your inner self, it'll tell you exactly what the next right best steps are for you. You just have to listen and just don't be afraid to just be that person.
Yeah, I honestly was just thinking about that the other day while I was on a hike. I was like, man, life is happening right now. And I feel like so many of us spend so much time waiting to become something, waiting for something to come to us, like this constant state of waiting. And it's like, life is happening right now. If you want to be a certain kind of person, like be that person today.
Yep.
Being someone who is always seeking to improve themselves. Were you this way, even as your younger self? And if yes, what environment really fostered that for you to become that person?
I've always been like that. And I would definitely attribute that to my parents. Like my parents are just such go-getters. Like my dad grew up in the hood in Boston and, made something of himself. And my mom is one of 21 kids. And like, she made something of herself. Like her parents didn't even make it past middle school. So, they were always really about like motivating yourself, taking care of yourself. And there was emphasis on self-care, serious emphasis on self-care. Like even when I was in college, grinding, chasing my dreams, like my parents didn't want me to have a job because they just wanted me to be able to focus on what was important. And I think that that's so important that people lose sight of. Like literally focusing on what's important will always lead you in the right direction. And self-care and self-betterment is a part of what's important. I think a lot of people are like on a treadmill or like on like a little like wheel that just keeps going and going, and they can't seem to move past certain things or grow from certain things. But it's because they're not literally putting themselves first and putting themselves in a position to win. So that's how my parents always were. My parents were always about healing. Like, my parents are really cool. They're really progressive, liberal people. They're always like, monthly massages, meditation. My parents even took us to do floating one time. I don't know if you know floating, where you like go into like the salt chamber, you float. Like, they're into that type of wavelength. They're Whole Foods people. That's just the life they live. So that's the life I love and enjoy and want to continue living.
Yeah. Okay. So that really completes the picture. Like, that makes a lot that makes a lot of sense. And the fact that like your mom encouraged you to like go to Africa and just take the leap, and you sharing with us that meditation was something that they would do, and that you witnessed as a child, like, that is really great. That's so great. How being this kind of person, and knowing that your personality, the kind of person you are, the habits that you have, the thoughts that you subscribe to, really bleed into and manifest into all areas of your life. And I think this is definitely attributed to the success of you building your own agency. How has it, if you're open to sharing, kind of leaked into your relationships?
I will say that anybody who knows me knows, like, I carry like a positivity contagion with me. Like, I'm always trying to spread positivity to other people around me. And I'm really big on that as well. Kind of going back to like that idea that we had earlier about like, just, I'm careful with who I have around me because it affects like the energies that I'm absorbing. So that's really important with me. Like, my work circle are people who I've also had relationships with over many, many years. And I just keep doing ongoing business with those people because it's just easiest, it's safest for me. They're positive people. They're bringing nothing but positivity to me and my business. And it's just so important for me. I think in this industry, you have to really delineate those ways of life, because I'm big on like just keeping people around me who are like-minded, like myself. And I won't, if I catch a bad vibe, like, I won't even chase it. Like, for me, it's cool. There's so many other opportunities in this world coming from more positive sources that if something rubs me the wrong way, like, I'm just out. I'm very, very protective of my energy and my space because it's real. Like, we're a self-fulfilling prophecy of ourselves, So if we are constantly like putting out negativity or gossiping and being negative with others around us, like, that's going to always come back to us. So I'm just big on just being positive and just carrying that with me. It's not even like faux positivity, but like, I'm just blessed positivity. Like, when I have a bad day or when something goes wrong, like, I think about other people in other parts of the world who aren't as fortunate as me or weren't born into the circumstance that I was born into. And that's what fuels me to just keep going and being my best self, is like knowing that I'm not alone in this world, knowing that I'm inspiring so many people and just keeping that positivity going. Like, that's what fuels me.
I love how you said not faux positivity, just blessed positivity. And something that I feel like that also just goes back to the awareness of like the perspective that you choose to view the world through. And I love that perspective of like just always being aware of your blessings. And yeah, that is so huge.
It is.
How about in, navigating your romantic partnerships? How has that been a mirror reflection of this lifestyle and this mindset that you choose to carry?
I feel like that's a department that I haven't quite figured out yet. I think that also goes back to a lot of the themes that we talked about earlier, like dating in this social media space. Like, for me, I'm just waiting on my soulmate to walk up on me, because when it happens in the right place and space, it'll just be so divine. But I feel like for me, there's a lot of like outputs, like people trying to like talk to me and take me on dates, and like a lot of people just like wanting to absorb my energy. And I'm just very particular. Like, I have to align myself with somebody who has the same values as me. And it's really hard to find in this day and age. Like, the internet and the communication tools that we have allow people to like, prop themselves up and present themselves in weird ways that they don't actually exist as. So for me, I think I'm just, like I said, waiting on my soulmate to walk up on me, because it is a little scary out here, like dating. Like, I feel like men are so overstimulated, and even women can be overstimulated. Like, there's so much images on the internet, and guys can't make up their mind. They're not serious. So I carry who I am. I'm unwavering, and I'm really trying to attract like the type of person that I am. So if you're out there, if you hear this message, like, listen, your girl's waiting on me, I'll drop the pin,
Yeah, yeah. I honestly have the same outlook on dating. And I have downloaded like the dating apps, I think like twice. I downloaded it. I remember one time, and this was like back when I lived in Arizona, so years ago. And I literally swiped left on like every profile that I saw, to the point where I guess the app ran out of suggestions. And I was like, this is not for me. I'm saying no to everybody. I'm not feeling it. Like, this is just not for me, not for me.
It's not.
And it does feel hard. It's interesting that it feels hard, because you would think that us, having social media and us having so much access to other people would make connections easier. But I feel like it's actually kind of made it harder in some ways. Yeah, yeah. So I'm also all about, in that department, I'm going to leave it up to divine timing, divine alignment, because I don't want my partnership to have, come from any forced action on my end. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I feel like you have a lot of awareness on just energy in general. And there's a couple of questions that I want to ask you in regards to that. One, I think, I'm guessing that awareness is really, partly rooted in the way that your parents were, and that they are, and how they raised you, and what they introduced you to. Do you have like a certain memory with your parents of like some kind of moment where they introduced you to like a spiritual thing, or like healing modality, or just like a thought that they instilled in you that like really stuck with you and has contributed to this awareness that you have?
I would definitely say, like, my mom used to say this quote to me. It was like, walk carefully amongst the dead. Like, that was like one thing she said. I think that's what it is. Mom, if I misquoted you. But the meaning was always like, being careful with your surroundings. You know what I mean? Like, having that assertion, having that insight, that hindsight, having that foresight. You know what I mean? Like, not taking things for face value all the time, and listening to your instinct. Like, that's something so key. And it seems so simple, but a lot of people actually don't listen to their instincts. And it's so important, because there's a voice that lives inside of us all. And if you listen to it, it'll give you all the signs. Like, when you see red flags, just run. Just run. Like, this episode has played out already 1,000,001 times before. And that was like always something that my parents would, make me be mindful of, like, red flags, just be out, And yeah, like, I think a lot of people tend to like give people like the benefit of the doubt, or situations the benefit of the doubt. And I think that's cool, if you want to be positive and, kind of like think positive about certain things. But I think it's so important just to listen to your insight. It's usually always right. Seriously.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. For anyone who's like listening or watching this and they're like, but like, how do I know? Like, what is my instinct? Like I don't know what my instinct is. How do I know if it's my instinct or like my ego? What would you say to them?
I think past experiences really always shape and mold who we are in a present day context. So that's important. Like, just remembering what you've been through and where you're going will always lead you. You have to know your past and your history to know your future. So that is like really big in like molding your instinct. That's so important. And then just like staying true to who you are, like your positive values that you keep with yourself constantly ongoing, that you pass on to others and things like that. Like those are the things that really should help fuel your decision making, and figure out what the next best steps are, you know, really fully evaluating your options and making the best decision. You know, it's in us. It needs fine tuning constantly. Sometimes things happen after the fact and don't realize them until after the fact. I'm like, oh, why did it click like that? You know what I mean? But it's about like understanding those like fine details, like those meticulous details in life. Like God writes out life like a book. And if you really zoom in, you'll notice the details in everything. And they exist in our life, like at so many metaphoric levels. When you look at the leaf on a tree and you see the details of a leaf, you see the stems and the water that runs through them. Those are the details of life. And when you start to notice them about other details of your life and the way life has its inner workings, you'll understand what your instincts are about, because you'll be able to recognize those things.
That was so beautifully expressed. That was so beautifully expressed. You know, bringing up the importance of, you know, knowing your past. And I think I agree. That is so important. That's something that a lot of us who are afraid of confronting our pasts, we miss out on the knowledge that waits for us there. You know, having this awareness of how important it is to, you know, look at your past and assess it and see, you know, where the improvements could be made. Have you always felt comfortable like confronting those kind of shadow aspects of yourself, or like the not so easy to look at aspects of your life?
Definitely. Like those not so easy parts are so crucial, because I think a lot of times we run from those things. And the older I get, I'm constantly trying to unpack and unlearn certain things and figure out why things are the way that they are. Like truly and honestly, why do I act the way that I act in certain relationships, or why do things move the way that they move in certain ways, you know, life's intricacies. And I just think it's just so important to just like dissect everything and not take things for face value. It kind of goes back to that theme again. And the moment that you do that, the moment that you start to really understand the deeper meaning of things, you'll understand how complex and how deep life is, and why you are the way that you are at this time and place.
Yeah. And, you know, kind of touching again on the awareness of energy, and also the awareness of how important it is to look at those all aspects, all intricacies of your life. Would you say that you haven't really struggled with letting go or with releasing, because you know ultimately that what's meant for you is for you and won't miss you?
110%. That is exactly how I live my life. And I know what's in front of me, what's ahead of me is much bigger than what's in front of me. So I'm about shedding the old and getting in with the new. I think minimalism is important. That's something that I've just adopted over the past, like, 2 years or so. Like I said, I gave all those bags away to Goodwill. Like it's about just like shedding and getting rid of things that no longer serve you. We as humans, we just find ourselves like collecting all these things. We collect people, we collect assets, we collect all these things. And like, what's really like serving you, what's really fueling your inner self, those are the things that are most important. And that's really what I care most about.
What would you say are those things that really are fueling you and are so important to you right now?
The things that fuel me and that are important are my family, my friends, my clients. Like those are the things that really fuel what I'm doing. Like having that support system around me with my family and friends is so key for me. And like that outpouring of love, and like, my friends, they're all killing it in their respective fields. You know what I mean? Like I have friends that are in the entertainment industry, and I have friends who are over here like killing it as doctors and nurses. You know what I mean? So we just are constantly motivating each other, spreading positivity amongst each other. And that's so important to me. And then I'm just so fueled by my clients, like being able to like push the needle forward on these projects that we're working on, being able to shift the culture, being able to inspire that young, up and coming teen somewhere in New York City who wants to like pursue public relations one day. Like just being myself and like continuously doing me and knowing that I'm inspiring generations to come. Like that's so important to me, because if you can change one life, like you've done something, good for the world. So, the goal is to change as many lives as possible. So I'm just fueled by like my work, and that my work is able to really push the needle on like big and important things happening in the world.
Has any, like, I don't know if you've heard this before, but you're so well spoken.
Thank
Like, you
you.
don't even have to think of the responses, they just like come to you. And I love that. I love that. And I feel like that's a reflection of someone who has and takes the time to reflect,
Yes.
because if you don't take the time to reflect, like you'll have to like approach these questions like kind of like thinking to yourself in the moment. But I think because you respond so quickly, it's like you've already thought of this. You already know what's up. So I love that. You're very well spoken.
Thank you.
Um, so kind of this conversation went by so fast. But I kind of want to just bring this full circle by asking you something like, what is something that you're very proud of yourself for growing through?
I honestly, like, not to sound cliche, but I'm just really proud of myself of growing through COVID. I feel like that was no easy task. And I feel like so many people are still trying to like piece it together from COVID. Like what COVID did to us as humans is going to affect us for years to come. And I'm just
Mhm.
so proud of myself. Like I had my highs and I had my lows of 2020. And when you have that much time to think to yourself, yeah, you come up with conclusions to a lot of the positive things, but then you also find yourself kind of having like life crises like every now and then, as you're just dissecting yourself. So I'm proud of myself from like growing through COVID. Like it was such a mental health maze, and I was able to find myself out of it and at a peaceful outcome at the other end of it. And I'm just like so positive, like who I am on the other side of this, crazy time period. So
Mhm.
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, yeah. I know I said that was going to be the last question, but as this version of you who has grown through this past couple of years, how are you projecting? And I know you're someone who's very intentional too, and you foresee and all that. So what are you foreseeing for yourself in 2022?
2022 is going to be my biggest year to date career wise. Um, I am going to be a whole new person by the end of 2022. Like I'm already preparing to like change my number and stuff because I just see this like great change about to happen. There are things behind the scenes that are, happening, pieces that are moving and things that are happening that I, can say that this is going to be like this. So yeah, I feel like this year and all the years leading up to 2022 we're preparing me for 2022. I can honestly say that. 2021, I told somebody the other day, I was like, I could have ended this year broke. And I would have been so happy with just like all the, self-care and self-betterment that I went through, like all the way from veganism to stop quitting drinking. Like I could have ended this year broke. I would have been totally fine. Like that's how much this year meant to me at a spiritual level. So
Mm.
2022 is like pretty much me just preparing for takeoff. So I'm so excited for what life has for me on the other side of that. And I just can't wait. Like I've prepared for this moment.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. And I honestly feel the same. Like, I feel like this past year has been so significant to my spiritual growth and my overall wellness that I'm so appreciative of it. And it does intuitively feel like it happened for a reason, and it is preparing me for what's to come, because I'm going to need this wellness. I'm going to need this mindfulness. I'm going to need my good health to be able to experience and receive the success that is on the way in the best way possible. So I love that. And if you feel called to share anything else, I want to hold space for that. But if not, it's all good.
I would like to just say thank you so much for having me. You're such an amazing soul. I love your spirit, love your platform, love what you're doing, and just continue just being a light of positivity and leading the pack in what you do. Like the world needs more Jocelyn's, and you're just doing it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And the world needs more Savannahs too. Like you are like you feel like a woman's woman. Like you are a woman that a woman would want to have in their circle, on their team, on their side. Like you really give off that energy. And I'm glad that we were able to exchange this conversation because I feel like I got to know you a bit more. And I'm really excited to share this conversation with everyone.
Yes, and vice versa. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.